Israel and its gun policies, a favorite for gun rights activists and Second Amendment diehards. They wave it around as an example of the American conservative ideal, a nation with heavily armed citizens that has little to no mass shootings. The morning after the Parkland, Florida school shooting, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee tweeted this, quote, "Just waking up in Israel to news of heartbreaking school shooting in Florida, reminded that Israel pretty much eliminated it by placing highly trained people strategically to spot the one common thread, not the weapon, but a person with intent." But ask an Israeli who carries a gun, and he and others will flat out tell you that comparison is flawed and misleading. Itay Hod is that Israeli soldier. He is the senior entertainment reporter for The Wrap and wrote about gun control and what he learned as a shooter in the Israeli Defense Force. Wow. Who knew?
Who knew?
Okay, so first of all, tell us how you ended up in Israel.
Well, so I was born and raised in Israel, dual citizenship. And so I was born there, finished my military service, and then moved to the U.S. and did my military service like everyone else there, from 18 to 21 for men, 18 to 20 for women. So my mom, my dad, my sister, my brothers, they all went to the military.
Okay, so you learned to use a gun. You owned a gun. So tell me about how the Israeli army first teaches you how to respect your weapon.
Yeah, so that was really interesting because when this whole thing started and everyone started looking to Israel as an example, as a model, I thought about the day that I first received my first assault rifle. I was an 18-year-old kid, very scrawny, came to the military, handed this Galil, which is sort of like an AK-47. It's a mix of a lot of different things, but it would be like a Kalashnikov.
It's a high-powered weapon,
yes.
Semi-automatic.
Yes, and the first thing they tell you when they hand you the weapon is lose it and you go to prison for a long, long time. Now imagine that as an 18-year-old, right? How scary it is. I thought about the fact that since the IDF, I've lost more iPhones that I can remember. I probably locked myself out of every single apartment I've ever lived in, and here I am, I'm given a gun, I'm told if you lose it, you go to prison. And it's not just that. It's like if you take a step away from your gun, like say you got up and you went to a table to eat something and you just realized you left your gun, that alone will get you staying in the military on your weekend, which is almost like a death sentence.
So that would invoke punishment.
Yes.
So you have to carry that weapon with you, be aware of where it is at all times.
All times. You couldn't even go to the bathroom without your weapon.
And why was that? Why was that required?
Because they wanted you to know that if you lose this weapon, chances are it'll end up in the hands of terrorists. And that does happen a lot in Israel. So you have to be very, very careful about where you leave your weapon, because it could actually hurt other citizens if you don't. So there's a very sort of serious way of looking at a weapon, understanding what this weapon can do, and that's why I think Israel doesn't have the same issues that you have here, despite the fact that they're right. The right is absolutely right about the fact that when you go to Israel, if you walk down any street, you will see lots of people carrying a gun, usually people in the military service.
Okay, so when you got out of the military, did you still own your gun?
No, you hand your gun back. And then if you want to get a gun, people who have finished their military service have to wait until they're 20, because women finish at 20. And then if you haven't done your military service, you have to wait till you're 27 to apply. And you have to go through a lot of hoops to get a weapon. And forget about an assault rifle. The best you can hope for in Israel is one pistol.
So only if you're military, former military, can you own something more powerful than a pistol?
You probably wouldn't even then be able to own it. So it's a very rare that you would get anything other than a pistol, and only if you can really prove that you need it for protection, and you have to bring a note from the doctor saying that you're okay, and you have to go through training and all of that.
So why is Mike Huckabee saying this then? That he feels more comfortable there because everybody has a gun in Israel?
Because it's interesting. You go to Israel and you do see a lot of guns, but if you're not aware of the fact that these are all soldiers, even the people who are wearing civilian clothes are probably soldiers off duty, then you don't realize that if you're a regular citizen, you can't get a gun in Israel. It's very, very hard.
Okay, so the difference, you know, the way you're taught to respect your gun in Israel, and I've written op-eds on this, I don't believe that many Americans respect their guns because they end up in children's hands far too often for that to occur, right?
Yeah.
I think that, you know, people own an AR-15, some of them, because it's cool and it's fun to shoot. And it's great to target. They don't respect the gun and what it can actually do. And I just wondered if you agreed with me
Yeah, and even in Israel, they agree with you. So I spoke to the head of the NRA there, the equivalent of the NRA there, right? It's a smaller, obvious organization. I told him, so are you the equivalent of the NRA in America? He started laughing, saying, I wish, because the NRA has so much power. Even I spoke to a conservative parliament member in Israel who is pushing for more guns. And he told me, I'm trying to get it to 8%. Right now,
because
it's between
only
2% and 3%. Right.
People
so
in Israel, right.
Exactly.
Very tiny amount of people.
And he said, I want to get it up to 8, but even he acknowledges that if they do get it up to 8, he's pushing for more training for guns. So he wants to take it from like 2 hours to 6 hours because he believes 2 hours is just ridiculous. So the right there is in a much different place than the right is over here.
Interesting. It's a fascinating article. Where can we find it? Your article?
On The Wrap.
On The Wrap.
TheWrap.com.
Thanks, Itay, for stopping by. Always love having you. Thank you so much. So there's an